Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl, the man held by the Taliban for 5 years and freed in one of the most controversial prisoner swaps in modern times, is now facing a general court-martial and possibly life in prison. In an arraignment at Fort Bragg Tuesday, the two major charges Bergdahl will face are desertion, which carries a 5-year maximum sentence, and misbehavior before the enemy, a rare military violation that could result in a life sentence. This week's arraignment comes after more than 5 years of twists and turns in a case that has inspired passion in the military, the government, and the American public. Here's how we got here. In 2009, Bergdahl voluntarily walked off his army base in Afghanistan and was captured by the Taliban. Military prosecutors say Bergdahl deserted his unit and that his disappearance endangered American soldiers who spent weeks frantically searching for him. But Bergdahl and his defense lawyers say he wasn't trying to desert. Rather, he left his army outpost to inform an officer at a base 18 miles away about leadership problems within his unit. Whatever the reason, Bergdahl never reached that destination and instead spent 5 years in Taliban captivity, during which a number of videos were released by the terrorist group.
I'm scared I won't be able to go home.
In May of 2014, the Obama administration organized a prisoner swap to bring Bergdahl home. He was released in exchange for 5 Guantanamo detainees, also known as the Taliban 5.
This morning, I called Bob and Janny Bergdahl and told them that after nearly 5 years in captivity, their son Bowe is coming home.
But initial relief of Bergdahl's return was soon overcome by a firestorm of criticism. Security threats forced residents in Bergdahl's hometown to cancel a homecoming celebration, and congressional leaders from both sides of the aisle criticized the swap on news shows.
Well, it's hard to be comfortable when you really haven't been briefed on the intricacies of carrying out this agreement.
The biggest issue here is the violation of a policy that the United States has had for many, many years, that we don't negotiate with terrorists.
After Bergdahl's return, Congress launched an investigation into the prisoner exchange. The Army announced its own probe of Bergdahl's disappearance, and then Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel faced tough questions about security issues surrounding the swap.
Could this embolden terrorists? Again, I remind you, this was a prisoner of war exchange. He was a prisoner.
A Defense Department official who interviewed Bergdahl after his return testified that he had been subjected to brutal torture. Bergdahl recovered in a Texas hospital and then faced questions from the Army, which finished its investigation in December of 2014. 3 months later, in March, Bergdahl was charged with desertion and misbehavior before the enemy. After a September hearing, an Army officer recommended that Bergdahl not face jail time and that the case be handled at the equivalent of a misdemeanor level. But the Army pursued a more serious general court-martial proceeding instead, leaving Bergdahl's fate once again uncertain. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, a service member can be found guilty of misbehavior before the enemy if he or she runs away, shamefully abandons a military unit, endangers the safety of a unit, engages in cowardly conduct, or fails to do the utmost to capture or destroy enemy troops.